Hi, Mitch here again. Today I'm going to be talking to you about deploying Splunk attack range onto AWS using a Docker container. So you may have seen a video that I put up about a week ago, which was deploying via a Linux host. Today is the easy method. Docker containers obviously bring some fairly significant benefits, like not having to worry about those prerequisites and dependencies because it's all shipped with the container image itself. Now, there are some pretty good reasons why you would do a Docker container or a Linux host. They're both very valid options. I won't get into all of those today, but safe to say that the Docker option will get us up and running a whole lot faster. Now, there is a blog post that's attached to this video, which will have all of the steps and a link to the documentation. So I'd really suggest that you have a read of that as well. But I have a Linux host here that I'm going to be running my Docker container on, and we're going to be deploying to AWS. It's fairly straightforward. So really all we need to do is start off with a Docker pull command. I can spell today. Should be fairly quick for me because I already have a latest copy of the image, at which point we can do Docker run, launching an interactive shell. Oops, there's an extra slash in there that I don't need. And we're up and running with an attack range Docker image. So a couple of next key steps, first of which is to do an AWS configure. This is going to allow me to enter in my temporary AWS credentials, which will be already invalid by the time this video goes up. Enter our default region, which in my case is going to be AP Southeast 2, at which point we can actually start to configure attack range. Enter the configure command would help. So yes, we want to overwrite the existing configuration. We're going to pick AWS today. It's going to generate a master password for us. Yes, we would like to use Packer for pre-built images. Yes, I would like to generate a new key pair. It's going to set up my firewall rules for me. We're going to call this one AR Docker to differentiate it from an existing AR instance that I have running. Today, just for simplicity's sake, I'm not going to build a Windows server. We're not going to build Linux. We won't build Kali Linux, a web proxy, or Splunk SOAR. So it's going to be fairly straightforward. That's gone and generated a configuration file for us. We can have a look at what that looks like. Obviously, these configuration files can be manually generated, edited, those sorts of things. We can have a whole arsenal of configuration files there ready to go to deploy attack range instances as you may need. So what I'm going to do now that I've actually got my configuration file up and running is, rather than do configure, we will start a build. Now that will kick everything off over the next couple of minutes. What we'll see on the right-hand side fairly soon is some EC2 images starting to be spun up. I will then pause the video and fast forward a little bit so that we don't have to sit through the boringness of watching EC2 images actually get configured and those sorts of things. But it is a fairly quick process. If we add in a Windows image, it does take a little bit longer because it has some extra configuration steps and those sorts of things. So creating the VPC now. Very shortly, we'll be creating the EC2 images. They may already be there. No, not there yet. I'm still creating the VPC. And we have the first of the EC2 images starting to be spun up now. So I'm just going to jump in here and just make sure. In fact, there's the first. There it is. In fact, there's only one in this particular configuration because we're only building a Splunk server. And there it is up and running. So I'll jump ahead to when the configuration is all complete. And we're up and running. So you can see that was a fairly straightforward process to deploy the attack range environment via Docker. So we've got the details of the web interface here. So I'm going to grab those and go and log in and show you what we've actually been able to build. So fairly standard Splunk environment here that's been built out of the box. Typically, a next step from here would be to start to actually build some detections and then also perform attack simulations. I'll describe what this process looks like in a coming post, probably next week, and we can start to have a bit of a look at what an actual attack simulation process and life cycle would look like. Thanks for watching.